thank you so much for being here tonight on this Friday evening. I'm so excited for this conversation. So let me introduce our incredible panelists. With us, we have re-recording mixer Ai-Ling Lee, music supervisor George Drakoulias, and composer and songwriter Mark Ronson. Come on out, and I want you to give them a huge round of applause for their incredible work on this film. Hi, Mark. Come on out, George. And come on out, Ai-Ling. Woo! Have a seat. I mean, I was just saying, I can't see who's crying. But let's take a show of hands. Who's watching Barbie tonight for the first time? Look at that. Wow. 2-timers, 3-timers. I'm going to stop. First of all, I mean, can we just congratulate this incredible group up here for Barbie and giving us such an incredible film. The message, you are going to walk away from here, you're going to be thinking about America Ferrera's speech and, you know, the beautiful moment at the end and just so many things from this film. But what has it been like for each of you to see the response and just how people have reacted to the music, the movie, the message? Ai-Ling, I'm going to start with you.
So, you know, I kind of working on the movie, you know, I was like, every day I'm like experiencing something new, like noticing something new. And it's such a wonderful experience working with Greta and Nick Huey, the picture editor. And, but kind of, for me, this movie speaks to me. But I didn't really quite expect it to be such a, you know, like such a big hit for everyone. And so when the movie opened, actually I watched it in Century City, AMC. So, you know, it was totally appropriate when the jokes came up. But it was like perfect seeing like everyone like all dressed up, you know, for like a 10 p.m. show. And then like the next morning, I happened to be at the movie theater for a different movie. But in the morning, it was like...
You can say Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about.
To see what
What other movie was out that weekend?
But like same thing, like it was like 10 a.m. in the morning, and like the theater was packed, and like everyone's like all dressed up, like Barbie themed, and it was like Christmas morning, but it was like a regular summer, and you know, watching a film and like people applauding after the America's monologue, and you know, some sobs that we hear. So it was great to be able to share it with everyone.
I love that. What about for you, Mark? What's it been like?
I feel the same thing. I mean, obviously working on the music like every day, going to work for a year and firing up the screen and watching, and just like there's so many scenes that just emotionally got me so like lumpy like all day while we were working on this music. But like I just think of that scene where Margot's like, why'd you have to wish me to your messed up world? And like she's so brilliant because she can do this thing where she can do like this slapstick pratfall and then like make you cry in the course of 20 seconds, you know? So I was so emotionally moved by it the whole time we were working on it, and really just watching this every day for a year, it didn't wear down. And then, like you, I went on opening night to Times Square to 42nd Street to see it, and it's not like a necessarily very like cool vibey theater even. It's just like, you know, 6 p.m. on a Friday, and it was the most electrifying atmosphere. And there were, you know, girls in fuchsia wigs and Muslim women in pink hijabs and dudes in like pink polos. And then I didn't understand all the pink cowboy hats, but I guess she does wear the pink cowboy hat. Like it was just such a wonderful feeling. And then what I really remember was that when the film was over, no one got up from their seat for a while. Like that never happens in a movie. You get up, you know, 10 seconds into the credit. And I think people were just like sitting in this feeling or whatever emotional experience that they were having. And I thought that was really kind of, I just noticed that, you know?
Yeah, because it's not what you would expect. George, what about for you?
Well, I knew it was going to make $1 billion from day when announced. It's hard. I mean, I was fortunate enough to see the first screening we had I think it was like Hawaiian Gardens or something like that, and it kind of played like a rock show, like a real, like you saying, like people clapping after America's speech, people cheering for Ryan's song. All the jokes landed. And I did say, I mean, I didn't say it was going to make $1 billion. I said we're going to be just fine as far as like the success of the thing. Like this is really, it was just kind of, you can just tell. And then I think it became something. I had this kind of discussion. It became whatever it needed, whatever you needed the movie to be. That's what it became. And we haven't had a monoculture kind of thing like this in a long time. And I'm just super excited. I think it's great. And also I'm a pretty tough guy. And I'm like, why am I crying about a movie with, about dolls? What I mean?
But the music, I mean, if you haven't already downloaded the soundtrack, you will leave here and download the soundtrack and be listening to it on repeat. But George, it all began with you, right? And a conversation that you had with Greta.
Greta, she put together like a sizzle reel of things, and she's like, and it's a musical, this. And then we talked about it, and we were kind of like, she was saying things like Xanadu and Saturday Night Fever. I'm like, well, we need a Barry Gibb, or we need like a Godhead we can run all this stuff through, like a what do you call those things at the end of a river, a delta. Who can run this? And I said, he's like, well, who can do like dance and this? I said, well, we should get Mark Ronson. He's like, you think we can get him? I'm like, yeah, we just got to ask him. And so
They did ask Barry Gibb first, and he politely said no. That we shouldn't skip. That's a good part of the story.
But Barry, he was just like, I didn't understand it. Like with like one song. Also, it was very early, and no one really knew what it was going to be yet. This was just kind of like this thing in the world. And so I just said to Mark, I was like, hey, and the minute they spoke, it was like they were off to the races. They were just, that was a love affair.
And the rest is history, because you then got the text from George.
Yeah.
And it was a 2-song assignment, right?
Yeah, I had this talk with Greta, and she said, listen, there's really two, at that point, there are only 2 songs that they were thinking about for the film. There's this big song, they had the dance number ready in the script. And then she just said, and somewhere there has to be a Ken song. Like, not that ever that Ryan Gosling was going to sing, but if we're going to have a song that speaks to Barbie's experience, then maybe a Ken one too. So I instantly got working on the track, the instrumental that became the Dua Lipa, the big dance number, Dance the Night, because they were starting dance rehearsals in a week, and I was nervous as hell, because I had like a week to get this demo off, and I wanted the gig so much because I loved the script. And George is just telling me, well, don't worry, just send a click track, like literally I'm just going to send them 4 minutes of like duck, 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 like this will be the tempo of the song. So I worked on a couple drafts of things. I sent something that Greta really loved, so they started rehearsing to that. And then I fell in love, obviously, with this dopey, tragic Ken figure in the film. And I think knowing that Ryan Gosling was probably playing the part while I was reading the script, and I just had that line. I was walking to the studio one day, and I just said, I'm just Ken. Anywhere else, I'd be a 10, because he's obviously very hot. Ryan Gosling is... he's a perfect specimen, but he can't get this person who he's so in love with to give him the time of day ever. So, so he started working on that song, and I sent that to Greta, and she said, like, I love this. I played it to Ryan, and I think he wants to sing it in the song, and I was so excited, sing it in the film. And she said, he says it speaks to him on a very deep level, and I said, was he being sarcastic? Like, And she said no, and so that was such a dream. I mean, I love Greta's films. I think she's a genius and kind of a bit of a comic genius as well. And so is Noah and his writing. So the fact that these 2 people that I hold up here and like the funny stakes are like, we think your lyrics are funny enough not to ruin our movie. Like there's just like it was very rewarding.
Didn't Ryan record that in London, like in a really short time?
Yeah, we had one afternoon really to do the whole vocals, because he's, he was filming all day, in rehearsals. I think he was doing like 7-hour workouts, so he like came for 1 hour, 2 hours to the studio in West London, where like the Clash recorded, this really cool but pretty like gritty studio. And we'd never met, so we had this quick like get to know you thing. Like he had a cup of tea, and we're like, all right, let's do it. And he went in, and Andrew, who hopefully will be here soon enough, he sang the demo on the vocal, and he has an amazing voice and a pretty big range. And I thought when Ryan started singing, we'd have to move the key and Ryan just was just killing it. And he actually brought, of course he did, because he's a brilliant actor, he brought this thing to it that we never actually imagined, that just took the song into another sort of emotional realm, because he was Ken. He had been living as Ken for 3 months, so he's singing our song, and he's singing it as Ken, not as opposed to Ryan Gosling.
I love that. I want to come back to that in a second, but Ai-Ling, the sound of Barbie Land is so fantastic. Like, you listen to those little details. Give us the nitty gritty of, like, some fun things that you did in building the soundscape of that.
Oh, cool. Thank you. So early on, in my early conversations with Greta, she wanted to explore, like, what sounds we would hear in Barbie Land, because nothing is alive, and it's mostly interior world, so there's no wind, no water, even the trees have no leaves, there's no rustling, but it's important to Greta that, it sounds, it feels pleasant and inviting. And one of the first things that she mentioned was like, she wants the sounds to feel authentically artificial. So say, the things that Barbies use, she wants it to sound almost like sounds in the commercial, where when the audience hears it, they and sees it, they want to have it. So say when Barbie opens the fridge at the dream house, we added like a female exhale sound, like a kind of like a sound that someone may make after drinking a glass of cola, just so that we can give it a feeling of like cool air wafting out. Just like thinking of like non-literal approaches to the sounds in Barbie Land. And say, since nothing is alive, so some of the bird chirps that you hear in the film, a lot of them, they are not recordings of real birds. They are like mimicked by us blowing to those water-filled clay whistles that would then emulate like a bird chirp sound that's kind of like those bluebird calls in Snow White, those classic Disney films. And, or no, we may also record ourselves like whistle, and we just edit them and pitch them around just to have that feeling. And, to give it a touch of playfulness, we kind of added also like a vocal performed sounds throughout Barbie Land. It's almost like a touch of playfulness. So like, it's almost like imagining if a human were to be playing with Barbie dolls and the sounds that they may make. For example, like when Alan, he's fighting with the construction cans, the kicks and punches, we kind of layered it with some beatboxer vocals. And like when like Gosling he ran towards that giant plastic wave in Malibu Beach early on in the film, and then he hits it and he flies into the air. And so we kind of added like this layer of vocal imitated airy swishes, kind of like shoo, shoo, shoo. Just it's kind of odd, but since everything in Barbie Land, that it shouldn't feel like too dangerous. It still needs to be pleasant, even though something bad's happening. So that's one of the few things that we did. Or like no water. So like when Barbie takes a shower, earlier on we experimented, and we tried like adding like some trying to imagine like as though like the speaker in the bathroom, like in the toy. But then we tried playing like shower sounds, but it felt weird to Greta and us too, because you don't see water. So after several tries, we tried it without any sound, and then but then I thought, oh well, it needs to feel pleasant, so let's try some like rain stick, flowing kind of sound that snuck in under it. So that's like a bunch of various different things, but all in all, we still need to make it kind of feel kind of real in a sense. So we didn't want to make it like distracted to the audience.
Are you going to sing as you come along? Hello. Welcome, Andrew Wyatt. straight off
Sorry,
the
I'm late,
plane
yeah.
from New York, from Burbank. He's made it here in time. We were just talking about you. I'm kidding.
Hope so.
And the incredible work that you've all done on this film. Andrew, do you want to talk a little bit about the score that and working? Because originally, like, when George text Mark, it was like you guys were going to do like 2 songs, and then you also ended up doing the score. So talk a little bit about how that evolved and what the sound.
I think when we started working on it, we were mainly concerned with giving it a signature kind of, what were the main colors going to be that we employed, or what was going to give the film its own kind of like musical signature. And it was like, it seemed like, the gauntlet had been thrown down by the production design, because the production design, it doesn't look like any other movie that's ever been. So we were like, we have to make this. We got to combine things in a way that is going to be really unique, and so that's when Mark hit reverb.com, and we started looking for like the real like synths that were employed during the period of like Barbie's like apotheosis, where Barbie was becoming the doll that everybody knew about, and which would probably be like around 70s or 80s, right, when it was just like it had already sort of conquered the world of dolls, So we bought this keyboard called the CS80, which is we didn't, Mark did, because and it's a very
I had to mortgage my house.
exactly.
We got some cheap things first.
Yeah, we got some cheap things first.
Greta, she loved the sound of these synths, and we're like, when else are we going to ever have this
Totally.
director who's so in love with this sound, and we're so in love with this movie.
Totally. And some of the synths that we knew were being used in some of the scores from that period of time, some of those classic old scores, were using like the Yamaha TX, and then we bought or Mark bought a CS80, which is the big dice. I mean, that's the big boys. There's really only like maybe 30 or 40 of them left in really good working order in the world, and they just have this incredible sound that's like water. I don't really know how, it's the most fluid sounding keyboard that I can think of. And so once Mark bought that and we had that we could sort of employ, it was really about just using the combination of those synthesizers and then pulling in the classical stuff as well, because that was going to give certain moments like a grandeur that only an orchestra can give, and a cinematic, for lack of a better word, feeling that only like an orchestra can give. Do you regret asking me this question already?
Oh, we love it,
Just
right?
like,
We want to hear.
Yeah, and then it was, because it was our first score, I think we probably, and we wanted to impress Greta so much, I think we probably, and again, we'll tell you when we do our second movie, but I think we probably did more writing than we maybe needed to. I don't I just don't know. We did a lot of different. We had to do a lot of trial and error, and Greta was also very important in picking, and
Yeah.
Susanna Parich was also very important in helping us find which ones of the cues that we.
Especially for the last scene where they're on the space, you know, having that really emotional moment. I mean, that was I remember walking into the edit suite one time and just seeing Greta had that on the screen because she was starting to chop it together. And it wasn't something that we had seen. And it was so like heaven can wait, but like meeting your God. And all I did was see a still of it, and I was like, "What the fuck is that? Like, what is that's in the movie too?" You know, and I remember walking out and just actually going home and writing a piece of music, just being so inspired by the still of that. So when we actually came time to score that part, we did write about 17 pieces of music because we knew that whatever had to happen at that moment had to be like not only this really important cathartic emotional thing, but also not get in the way of all this beautiful dialogue, and then at the same time set up the Billy song perfectly, because it really had to just like the Billy song had to just like unfurl from that. So but yeah, we'd be in the studio, and every time one of us would think that we had it done, and I'd be like, "What do you think?" He'd be like, "I'm not crying yet. Are you crying yet?" And we're like, "No, I guess we got to keep going." You know, it's just like we were just trying to move each other as much as we could.
So you're going to be scoring more movies. Like, I can't believe this is the first time they scored a movie. Like, that's an insane thing to hear. Andrew, now that you're here, yes, let's give it up for them.
Thank you.
Any directors looking for composers? Right here. I'm just Ken. Andrew, you missed the conversation. Apparently there's a line that you sang that just...
You want me to do it?
You want him to sing, right? Let's do it.
Okay. Can you feel Kennedy? Feels so real, my Kennedy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So,
Andrew singing on the. That's like
That's
Andrew's
you,
voice on
just for you.
the thing, and that was one of the only times that I took like a sneaky photo of him where he was in the booth, because I was like, this is ridiculous, because you know we were trying to walk the line of. When we saw that Kennedy part with the dancing, because we had already written the song, and then we saw that white space dance, you know, we were like, and Greta was like, I need you to go fucking up to 11 for this part, you know, and so that's how Kennedy was born.
George, what was your reaction hearing I'm Just Ken?
I thought it was great because it's easy to just make a funny song, ha ha, you know, and kind of like wink wink, but it wasn't. It was very sincere, and that's why it works. You know what I mean? I believed every word of it. You know, I'm not a Ken because I'm certainly not a 10, or I'm not even a 7. But
That's not true.
But it was so. Even on Andrew's demo, you're like, oh, this is very vulnerable. This is not like, you know, this is very serious. And then the Dream Ballet is kind of next level. I think that's like an acid trip. I don't think that's the best. That was the best.
I mean, to George's point, like, how do you stop that song from being like completely like, you know, like caricaturish? Like, there's so much emotion in that. Like, you feel so sorry for him, but at the same time, it's perfect. Like,
I think because we're just trying to write a song that, like, you sit down at the piano and you have 2 chords in a succession, then you're searching for the 3rd chord that just moves you. Like, so that's how we write. We're never like, what's the 3rd chord that's going to make everybody laugh? You know, we're always trying to write from a sincere place that, like, regardless of what the song was about. So I think because the music was like made us feel a bit lumpy, then it was, I think, all the other things that come on top of it, and we could play a little bit with the lyrics, but as long as there was some, like, as long as you felt that, and that goes to what you were saying about Greta with you, like, there's no artifice. Like, if we're not ever laughing at them, you know, like, we're in it with them, even at the most ridiculous point. So that was kind of the.
and just going back to, you know, I mean, the soundtrack is so incredible. You've got such great artists. Like, George, what goes into like picking the artists? Like,
It's so funny. Everybody's talking about this, and Andrew, he missed a lot of those Zooms. We do a weekly Zoom and just kind of like put a wish list together, and it was an embarrassment of riches. The fact that anybody we called was like, oh yeah, you know, like no one said no, and it was just, it's like, well, let's just, who's our dream? You know, we're doing the Sluggers Row, Murderers Row of Yankees, whatever, like three-peat Lakers, whatever. What are the best acts we can get right now? And Mark's Rolodex is a lot more current than mine. But
people were
So,
such
yeah.
fans of Greta, and her movies and what she represents, that everybody at least came to the table. And then some people like Carol G came because Barbie was important to them, and Charlie XCX because of both reasons.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of challenges, like what were your challenges in writing I'm Just Ken and or even Dance the Night?
The challenges?
Yeah.
I mean, Ken was a bit of a dream because that sort of just came and they loved what we wrote. And then we just had to write the dream ballet after. Dance the Night was really more of a, with Dua was more of a involved thing because we wrote a whole song that we really loved. But Dua in her songs, and she can tell it better than we can, really she loves to give a bit of grit and a little bit of turmoil in her lyrics. So the first song that we wrote had a bit more of that, but it seemed to foreshadow the movie and the precipice Barbie's about to drop off in a way that it wasn't our job to give away the next bit of the movie. So we rewrote that whole song, and Dua came back, and she's on a world tour playing all around the world, and every time she's come back in the studio and we're just sitting there, and because it sounds so like I'm being cliche or something, but we did love it that much. We loved it, and we just watched the movie, and Dua started writing the lyrics and freestyle, and she's like, oh, when Margot goes like this, I want to have a line where I say come along for the ride. So she rewrote it to have that line, and then she's even as subtle as when Margot does some dance move like this, she says, I want to say up right there. Okay, turn the music up. So she started to reverse choreograph Margot's whole movement in her lyrics, and it made it such a fun experience as an audience to watch that while it's yeah.
What about for the sound? What were some challenges for you?
For us, it's this coming up with just using different approaches. It's not say even if just a plane going by. They don't want to just hear a plane going by. Because everything needs to be light and pleasant. So so we experimented, and with using wind blowing by and sneaking a little harmonica buzzing under it, and a vocal perform mimicking a plane going by, also a lot of times it's about what would fit, and the Corvette. When it crashes and flips and turns, Greta doesn't want to have any sounds of danger, no glass, no metal crashes. So we just use a lot of homage from. We ended up using a lot of stereotypical sounds. Kind of can be a bit on the campier side. That's usually we try to shy away from. Including some cartoony sound like zings and whooshes, but it lends itself so well with the movie. A lot of times it's just about trial and error, and what will work to give it a different vibe for Kingdom versus Barbie Land. For Kingdom, we would for the Walla in the background, it would be more of a, unlike when Barbies were running Barbie Land, it's all female and polite and pleasant. And when Kens are running it, it's all more boisterous and frat party more hollering and stuff. And so we would sneak in some things in the backgrounds, at the Mojo Dojo Casa House, there'll be horses. We snuck in some horses, it was coming up on TV, and and then it was a coincidence. We also added some goat sounds here and there. It was kind of a coincidental mistake, but it turned out to be a good mistake. Because we were layering, playing around with layering all this different walla, and then like one day we were reviewing, and we were reviewing with Greta too, and like all of a sudden like we heard like, wait, it sounded like a goat sound. Did you add a goat sound? We were like, no, we wouldn't have. But then it was just funny, and then it turned out it was just like 2 layers of walla of like some guys calling out, and just sounded like a goat bark. So we thought it's perfect. It lends itself to that world. So it just little like nuggets of it, like a little cameo of it, even during the goat came by during the beach battle. But a lot of it is like thinking of like any other ways just to work with the clever dialogue and also staying out of the way of it, and also together with music. But you know, all in all, yeah, and all in all, it was a treat. And even like say the Ken song, you know, at the end of the beach battle fight, you know, when like Gosling, Ken, and Sumu, they were doing that imaginary superpower moves while they were singing along. Up to that point, you know, for us, in terms of sound design, even though the sounds in Barbie Land, they're mostly artificial, but it's mostly not synthy designy. But for that, you know, we just decided like, well, they're doing superpower moves, let's just add that, and just, you know, so we went a little bit more like exaggerated, more bombastic. We used some like synth and low bassy sounds for that, and at the end of it, you know, to work with the music to crescendo into the dream ballet sequence. And even during the dream ballet sequence, we kind of play around with it with, you know, the guidance of Nick and Greta, when like we took the idea of like continuing that imaginary play sounds when they were doing that cat moves and bow and arrow stuff. So we started like trying to add in some sounds under it, like, you know, adding the stereotypical puma cat snarl, and like the bow and arrow. You know, we did that too, but, you know, just making sure that we don't make it sound too real with the bow and arrow, not too tactile. So it needs to be more stylistic and imaginary. So just to keep it to be a bit more like imaginary fun kind of way.
I actually miss this when I listen to the music now without the film. I miss your sounds because they add this like excitement, especially in the battle and the Ken stuff. Like, and I noticed they like fed it back in the video. But the coolest compliment that we got about our sounds was one time just before Alan fights the Kens. Noah was like, "Can you put this kind of like Ry Cooder, like, you know, that classic like Midnight Run, like, you know, before a fight breaks out?" But we were doing it on the synth, so we got this cool sound just using like, you know, the mod wheel on the synth, and had this like synth version of like, and we're watching in the edit thing, and Ai-Ling's like, "That's a cool sound." Like to have the sound, like have like the, you know, you say like, "That's a cool sound." That was a great compliment.
So interesting, right? You're hearing it all. Okay, last question. And I know everybody in the world who's seen Barbie, because there are still people that haven't, but everybody who's seen it wants to see I'm Just Ken performed at the Oscars. And I know we've kind of discussed this. If it happens, how would you like to see this number be manifested, like performed as an opening number? This is where you get to be producers.
I mean, right? Well, we just, of course, if we do it there, we want to pull all the stops out, right? Yeah. Have Slash and have the wind machine blowing his hair back like he did on the MTV Music Awards in like 1994.
Right.
Unicorns. Yeah. I mean, Greta would obviously hopefully direct it, so I guess she would be the person to.
Yeah.
And Wolfgang.
Wolf Van Halen. Yeah, I'm practicing my bass. Andrew's got the piano down. We're on call. It's just what we're trying to say. We're on call if they need us.
Do it anywhere any of you guys want. We'll do bar mitzvahs. We'll do.
We also have a two-man sort of Ken act. We can come, you know, no fee is too small, no gig too small.
And as you heard tonight, Andrew can very well sing the tune. So they're for hire. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you,
so
this
much.
incredible
Thank
panel.
you.
And thank you, Andrew, for coming straight from Burbank to join us tonight. Thank you, everybody.